My phone was ringing and I could see that it was going to like the Google Voice number. And it was this guy in Canada whose day job is like IT adjacent. And he sounded like pretty frazzled and in a hurry.
Emanuel Maiberg is a journalist and a co-founder at 404 Media. 2 weeks ago, he got a phone call. Someone really wanted to tell him about this viral app, but this wasn't a pitch.
And he was like, oh my God, thank God you picked up. There's something going down on 4chan. There's like a big security breach. I think this is a big deal. You really need to look at this. And he was talking pretty fast. Like I couldn't fully understand what he was saying, but he sent me an email with some links to 4chan. And as soon as I got there, I could tell that A, it was pretty bad, as he was saying, and B, it was already too late.
From Kaleidoscope and iHeart Podcasts, this is Kill Switch. I'm Dexter Thomas. A little while back, an app called Tea, like TEA, the tea that you drink, started going viral, and pretty soon it was in the headlines. As the week went on, the headlines kept coming, but for all the wrong reasons. What is the Tea app and how does it work?
The Tea app is calling itself a women's dating safety app. I think a good way to think about it is if you've heard of this Facebook phenomenon of Facebook groups called Are We Dating the Same Guy? Where it's like women are getting together on Facebook in order to find out if they're dating the same guy and if there's any other red flags.
The reason that the Tea app went viral at first was because of what it was promising, to provide, quote, dating safety tools that protect women. The idea was that women could ask other women if they'd had any bad or even dangerous experiences with a particular man, and that all of this communication would happen on a, quote, secure, anonymous platform.
When you sign up for Tea, the app wants to verify that you're a woman. And the way that they elected to do that is it asks women to post selfies. The app uses this platform that Google owns where you set up and deploy your mobile app. And they misconfigured how that was used. And anyone could access a bunch of data, including all those selfies, or like a large number of them, thousands. I think it was like 70,000 or something. Selfies were available via this open Google Cloud Compute instance.
So a quick, simplified explanation of what's happening here. Tea was using an app development platform that lets you store data in a couple of different ways. You can set it to private and require authentication to access the data, or you could set it to public and not require any authentication at all. And this is what happened. Tea's buckets were public, meaning that essentially anyone who knew the URL could access it. That spread on 4chan, and this is how those users discovered the vulnerability.
People were already downloading those images and sharing them and making them available elsewhere. And we immediately contacted the app. It took them a few hours to shut down this access, but by then the information was all out there and reposted elsewhere on the internet. And 4chan, I think I don't need to explain, is notoriously racist and sexist. There was like this gleeful rummaging through the data and sharing images of these women and saying how attractive or unattractive they were and trying to get as much data on them as possible in an attempt to humiliate them and humiliate women in general who use this app in order to identify and avoid men they thought were dangerous. And this was like a haha, you thought that you would use this to do something against men. Now it blew up in your face and we're going to make your life hell for even trying to use an app like this.
The data was more than just out there. It was being used.
There was a version of the app a long time ago where rather than ask for a selfie, it asked for users' IDs. So some women, it wasn't just like their picture, which you might be able to use to find them in various ways, but some of them were like, here's a picture of my ID, and here's my address, and here's my full legal name, and eye color, and all of that. And people were like, We can find them. It's just like a bunch of vile language about women and trying to talk about it in a way that might scare someone who saw it, where it's like, we know where you live kind of thing.
The T app has said that 72,000 images were exposed. 13,000 of those were selfies and IDs. This is identifying information that's accessible to anyone who knows where to look. Essentially, the back end of this app was left open.
That's kind of the initial thing that people found. It obviously requires technical expertise in order to find that out and then use it, but not like a computer science degree level of expertise. In fact, when this first hit 4chan, they weren't only talking about the data and linking to it, they also offered detailed instructions on how to access the data yourself.
This obviously is very bad, but it gets worse. Because a few days later, they found another breach, which takes it to another level.
A security researcher gets in touch with us and says, hey, I could still access a lot of T app data after T said they fixed the issue. And that is true in the sense that they fixed the issue we reported on, but he found a completely separate issue that was even worse. And what happened there is you need an API key in order to access all the data on the app on the back end. And what he realized is that every user gets a key in order to let them interface with the app as a user, but that same key also allows them to like query the server for like other things they should not be able to get. And he was able to access a bunch of direct messages, right? You should not be able to access the back end and see everyone else's messages with like your personal user API key. Yeah, that is just a huge error. So it's like you join the app, you talk to other users, you discover that somebody has information about a man you're dating. You could take that conversation into a direct message conversation where understandably you would think that conversation is private, and he could access all of that. He managed to get his hands on 1.1 million direct messages, and those messages are as recent as the day of the initial breach.
Okay, so an API key is a pretty common way that websites or apps can use to identify and authenticate a user. Usually the way this works is that your API key is associated with your individual account, and the only things it can unlock are the things that are connected, again, to your account. But in the case of the T app, each user's API key could give them access to other people's messages also. How does this breach happen? How does this stuff get leaked?
So there's two parts of it. One is just the way that they used this Google platform in order to deploy their app. You should not be able to get into it without what's called a token in order to like view the data. But just like the way they set it up, the token was visible to everyone. So you can kind of like ping the app and then see the token and then use the token to kind of look through all the information.
At this point, you might have noticed something, that neither me nor Emanuel have really used the word hack. We'll probably use it casually later, but there's a reason that we don't really say it often in this situation. And that's because when most people think of a hack, they're thinking like Neo in the Matrix. But if you've been listening to what we've been saying, you're probably thinking, wait a second, none of this really sounds all that hard. And you'd be right. A lot of this did not require any sophisticated knowledge at all. When the first breach was posted, people were writing easy to follow tutorials on 4chan so that anyone could download the data for themselves. To borrow a phrase that a previous guest used in a past episode, T was cartoonishly hackable.
I was talking to my wife about this as I was reporting the story, and she was like, who hacked this? Who is the hacker that broke into this company? And that is a fair question. And I think you can say nominally, maybe it was someone on 4chan who was poking around because they saw the app in the news and they were like, I don't know, fuck these women, and poked around and found a vulnerability and then shared it on 4chan, and he is the hacker. But here, I think the metaphor is more like you put all your money in the bank and the bank left the door open and the vault door open and left no one in charge during the night, and somebody walked in and took all the money. So
I mean, to use your metaphor about the bank thing, this is like the first issue that we discover is that the bank left no guards. They left the door open. They left it unlocked, and somebody walked in and took some money. That is bad. This is like somebody else walks in and finds out, hey, there's a key lying on the ground. I can get into this one person's vault, but wait a second, this also opens almost the entire rest of the bank. I can get into everybody's personal information also.
Yeah, I would tweak that metaphor even a little to make it a little worse, where it's just like, I heard in the news this bank just got robbed. Let me just check if they still left the door open. He was like, yep, like they actually, there's another different door that is open. And I walked in and got more stuff.
The metaphors keep getting worse, man. Like, I don't even want to play this metaphor game. Basically, suffice to say, hopefully anybody listening or watching understands this is really bad. Being able to get people's photos, that's not great. That's not good at all, right? Being able to get people's IDs, that's obviously terrible. Being able to get direct messages opens up an entirely different kind of vulnerability here. So now we know what happened, and it's not good. But what could happen next is even worse. All right, let me paint the picture here. Imagine that you went outside for a walk and you're passing in front of an apartment building, and you look down on the street and you see this key that's labeled apartment 123, and you pick it up and decide to give it a try. So you go up to apartment 123, put the key in the hole, and it opens. And then you get curious and you decide to try that same key on apartment 124, and that door also opens. So does the door to apartment 125. And so does every apartment in every building in the city of Dallas, Texas. That's roughly the population of women whose data could have been exposed here. And it's not just what was leaked, it's how those photos, how those addresses, how those private messages could be used against these women.
We reported on many breaches and hacks over the years, and I would say this one is one of the worst ones that I've seen, and there's a couple of things that I think really compound the issues. The first one, I think, is you make this app for women. All your users are women, and it's like for their, I don't know, interests. And it's somehow, I wouldn't say that it's like hostile to men, but it's like, it's not a space for men. And some men, like these men on 4chan, find that, I don't know, offensive.
The mere existence of this.
Right. One thing that people have done, now that all these thousands of selfies are floating out there, if people recall, like the foundation myth of Facebook is that Mark Zuckerberg created this website called Face Mash, and what it did is it took all the profile pictures from the Harvard handbook and put two pictures of two women next to one another, and you decided who was hotter, and it created like this ranking of all the female students at Harvard. So somebody basically did something like that for the selfies in the app, and it collects all these data, all these votes, and then it presents like the top 50 women who were voted most attractive and like the bottom 50, which is just obviously it's just like such a mean, terrible thing to do and a violation of privacy. And it's like that alone, I think, is like really awful and mean-spirited.
One 4chan user took the selfies and IDs that they downloaded and created a website that they were calling Spilled Tea, which used that data to rank the users based on attractiveness. Someone else created a map on Google Maps that was supposedly showing the locations of the women who were affected by the breach. And I have to stress again, once you have the data, things like this are not hard to do.
We just had in the UK this Online Safety Act passed that now requires internet platforms to verify that users are of a certain age to view certain mature content. And the way that a lot of platforms are doing this, for example, like let's say Reddit, is it asks a user to upload a picture of their ID or a selfie in order to verify that they're adult. But like part of the deal in order to make users feel safe is Reddit doesn't see the image. Sona, this third-party service that does the verification, they promise to only keep the image for 7 days, but then they just hold on to your verification and they don't have the image anymore. And anytime you're like handling sensitive information, that is a good way to do it. And it doesn't seem like T did that. So that is like bad security practices. That is like a pretty bad way to do things.
Not only is it a bad way to do things, it's precisely the opposite of what the T app said it was doing. Their privacy policies said that photos used for verification purposes were, quote, securely processed and stored only temporarily and will be deleted immediately following the completion of the verification process, end quote. Clearly, they were not doing that.
The other aspect, which is much more serious, is not only do you create this app for women, you then invite them to talk to each other over direct messages about the most sensitive things that can happen to a person's life. You're talking about like husbands cheating. There were messages in the data that we got about women talking about their abortions. There were people talking about like criminal things that they are accusing other men of doing. And all that information is now out there. And not only is it out there, the nature of the conversation paired with the type of data that is already out there makes it really easy to identify specific people. And we obviously didn't share this information in any story, but imagine if you're like one of these scorned men. Imagine if you're just one of these 4chan dudes that is angry about the existence of this app. It's just like really horrible.
What has the company said since all this came out?
They apologized. They said initially they closed the security issue with the first hack. After the second hack, they said they fixed that issue as well, and they also turned off direct messages in the app. So it's like you can no longer DM in the app. And then they said they hired a cybersecurity firm to come and help them. I don't know who that is. They said they contacted law enforcement. I don't know which agency that is. They haven't said exactly.
You just said something that T said that they closed the security issue. How do you close the issue if, I mean, the data is just out there now, right? It's cat's out the bag.
Yeah, and this is what I meant. Like from the very first moment that I saw the 4chan thread, I was like, it's too late. It's like they can stop the access, but the information has been extracted from the app and shared elsewhere. So it's just out there forever, and the images are out there forever.
And this is where the lawsuit comes in. One woman is suing T, and her lawyers say that she's hoping that other women will join it as a class action lawsuit. Just reading through the document, you can see one incredibly important aspect of why this data breach could be such a risk. So I'm going to read from it. Quote, many users are domestic violence survivors who have intentionally moved to new locations and taken steps to conceal their private information, including their new addresses and that of their minor children, in order to protect themselves from domestic violence perpetrators. End quote. As you can imagine, those ID cards that are out there now made that all irrelevant. The lawsuit then goes on to say that T, quote, calculated to increase its own profits at the expense of plaintiff and class members by utilizing cheaper, ineffective security measures, end quote.
It's like violation of reasonable expectation of privacy. There was like an expectation of privacy, and this person talked about like very private things, and that trust and expectation were violated.
And this is probably where you'd expect me to tell you that the app is shut down, everyone's suing everyone, party's over, it's all done. But that's not what's happening. The T app is still operational. They just announced that they've signed up over 1 million new users, again, after all these breaches. And some women are complaining that they still can't get access to the app. All right, I want to be really clear here. There are some people who do not believe that an app like the T app should exist at all. And there's a range of reasons for this. Maybe you think that there's a double standard here and that this is all unfair to men. Or maybe you think that there's a risk that someone might get on the app and say something that's either just frivolous or even a straight up lie. Fair enough. But stick with me here because I want to propose to you that it kind of doesn't matter what you personally think about the morality of what this app is offering for two reasons. The first is that I think there's an issue that is actually a lot deeper than the supposed morality or non-morality of what's happening here. But we'll get to that in a bit. Before that, the other reason is that this is not the first time that women have used technology in this way. Women have always had to find ways to warn other women about dangerous men that exist around them. Sometimes that meant talking to other women directly, but when technology became more available, of course they use that too. And that's something I wanted to talk to Sam Cole about. She's another journalist and a co-founder at 404 Media, and she's done a lot of reporting on the concept that it looks like T is based on, these Facebook groups that had titles like, "Are we dating the same guy?"
A couple years ago, these Facebook groups went pretty viral where women were posting a picture of a guy and saying, "I'm going to go on a Tinder date with him later. Does he have any red flags?" And red flags are like the code in the Facebook group for something is amiss here. Watch out for some kind of bad behavior. And then people can comment on the posts and on the photos and say, yeah, this guy pressured me into sex or ghosted me or is married. There's a huge spectrum of what a red flag is in these communities. Mm-hmm. It was a much more localized and, I don't know, I guess more community-based situation than I would say T is.
The concept, or we could say the promise of T, I think stems from a good thing. As the website says, quote, dating safety tools that protect women. And unfortunately, there is a real need for that.
We have like information about how this works and like how many people are affected by that type of violence and abuse on dates. I think it's like almost half, like it's close to 45% or something of college women experience some kind of like verbal, physical, digital, even like stalking type of abuse as a part of dating, which is so high. It's a really risky thing to go on what is essentially like a blind date, like someone who's a stranger who you only know from pictures and text. It's just the extremes that we have to go to stay safe because we're scared of something, of the worst case scenario happening, because we've heard it happen to other people all the time.
To bring in some of the complaints that I've seen online, anybody could get on and post anything. They could lie and say anything that they want to say. You know, how do the communities deal with that?
It's something that the communities are very motivated to keep in check themselves because they want to, you know, make sure there isn't actually like just straight up like false allegations happening in the Facebook communities that you have to agree to before you enter. And one of the rules is no libel, defamation, or copyright infringement. You have to be prepared to show proof of anything you say about somebody and warn that you're posting at your own risk. One of the rules says if you don't have any proof of allegations you make against someone posted in this group, you're in danger of being sued for libel and or defamation. It's like, don't be mean-spirited, don't be judgmental, don't make comments based on somebody's looks or age or occupation or anything like that. Don't make fun of people. It's not just a shit-talking group. The purpose of it is, and at least the stated purpose is, to protect women from going on dates with guys who are like known bad actors.
If you really think about it, this all makes a lot of sense. These groups are focused on information. If someone's posting bad information, fake allegations, or I don't know, if someone's complaining that some guy likes to chew with his mouth open or something like that, that makes it really inefficient if you just need to know if the person you're going to see tonight is dangerous or not. These groups are not for messing around. And that's where T starts to differ from these community groups, because T is promising that it's fun. And I'm speaking in the present tense here because the T app did not shut down. It's still operational. They're still signing people up.
That's so crazy.
They're still posting on their Instagram.
The audacity.
I'm looking at this now. The caption of this: welcome to the ultimate girls only group chat in app form. Whether you're here to make new friends, share stories, or find support, T is where women across the US connect, share advice, and get each other. T is the girls' girl app where the girls get to yap. Welcome to the tea party.
Dude, shoot me. I don't know what to say. It's just fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy that they are trying to like recover and damage control out of this as fast as possible when like your app has just been blown to smithereens by hackers and you're like exposing the data of all of your users and you're like, we're fine. Everything is fine. Come on back. Come on in. If you're waiting to get in. And people are, right? Like they're trying still to get in.
Yeah. And this is where I have to say that they have addressed this in some form, right? Ladies of T, we have an update regarding the cyber incident that took place last week and wanted to share it with you as soon as possible. T was born from the mission to empower, support, and amplify the voices of women navigating the modern dating world. Our mission remains the same. While we acknowledge this serious cyber incident, we also acknowledge that T is needed now more than ever.
It's just wild. It's wild to like PR speak your way out of such a disaster.
One of the comments I was seeing was, y'all are focused on the wrong things. We do not care about the leak. Work on approving us in the queue. There's people still complaining about, hey, okay, stop talking about this hack stuff. Why have you not approved my account yet?
It's just wild. We're so like desperate for convenient solutions at this point. Just get me what I want immediately right now. I don't care if there's a huge privacy disaster as a result of negligence from this app.
By the way, this is also kind of important. The word T, it has a deeper background in queer and black circles, but now it's just kind of used as mainstream slang for gossip. Like if someone says, what's the tea on our new coworker? That just means, hey, have you heard any gossip? Please tell me. So there was an element of this app that was less about safety and more about promising fun. Basically, like any other social media app, it was built off of FOMO. Even if you don't have any real concerns about men around you, you don't want to get left out, which is really counter to what these original community groups were all about.
If you pull up a lot of the images of the website and the promotional materials of the app, it's like a woman whispering in another woman's ear. All the promotional videos on social media is like other women inviting you to use the app and stuff like that. And it's I'm not saying this is why the app failed so terribly, but it's a guy. It's CEO is a guy. It's a guy who started this app and he put a bunch of women like as the face of it. And failed them terribly. Failed them just absolutely terribly.
We're talking here about a man named Sean Cook, the founder of T. According to the company's website, he started the app, quote, after witnessing his mother's terrifying experience with online dating, not only being catfished, but unknowingly engaging with men who had criminal records.
As with everything else, it's like something that started as like a community effort, a not-for-profit thing. And someone saw that and said, okay, this is very popular. I can probably make some money off of this by putting it on the App Store.
And we do have to keep in mind here that this is not a grassroots organization. This is a company that needs to make money. Back in May, the founder got on a podcast and talked about his prospects for getting angel investing and making money on this.
I've wanted us to just build something really powerful. We have been receiving a lot of business development interest in partnering and investing in T and acquiring T. And we do have some executives and some pretty renowned angel investors in the dating space.
The founder was actually answering questions about stuff, back when the T app was on the upswing. He was talking about, yeah, we've gotten interest from angel investors who are interested in us. There was monetization in the app. You could pay for features in the app. And any investor is not going to invest in your company unless you've already shown that you can make money, that this is a monetizable service. And the T app does this through a subscription model. A user can pay $15 a month and get things like unlimited searches, reverse image searches, background checks, and phone number lookups. By the way, reverse image searches, phone number lookups, a lot of that stuff can be done with Google or tools that are available for very cheap or free. T was just packaging these things in an easy to use place, along with a centralized chat with other users. And that's where T's marketing comes in, where they make it look like the place that all your friends are hanging out. And in the early stages of an app, when you're raising money, that's what you need more than anything: users. And of course, there's a profit motive here to play down what's going on, because really the way they're portraying it is there was a hack, problem fixed. Something bad happened and we fixed it. The cyber incident, quote unquote, is over now.
And this is probably like great for it. Just show that like we can fuck it up horrendously and people are still banging on the door is like something that I would bring to an investor. Look how popular this is. Look how much this is filling a need.
We had 2 catastrophic leaks and people are still trying to get in.
Yeah.
That's so bleak. I had
is.
not thought about that. That they could probably still make money here. Honestly, why wouldn't they?
We're in the fuck around and find out era of society.
We're in the we already found out. We're still fucking around.
We found out and we're still fucking around. That's it's wild to PR speak your way out of such a disaster.
The fact that there are women who are still clamoring to get onto this app might be really strange to you. And you might be thinking, yo, what is wrong with these women? But also think about where the users are getting their information from about the leak, from the app itself. Most of us really tend to trust the technology we use, especially when it's billing itself as a safety app. Because, I mean, if you can't trust a safety app, what can you trust? And reading the T app's Instagram posts, it makes it sound like this whole thing wasn't really a big deal. And whatever happened, it's been taken care of by now, which again, isn't true, because all those photos, the names, the addresses, potentially messages, it's all out there now. It will never go away. And even for the people who have read up on all this, we have to think about the alternatives here.
I guess people are kind of doing that math and saying, even though it's clearly not a safe place to trust with my data or with my information, I'm weighing that against my need for safety in the dating world. All of my information has already been exposed to the internet in the past by every big company,
Right.
every big health tech company, every like major corporation has had some kind of big breach at this point. So what's another one? It's trying to solve a problem that started with or is facilitated by dating apps themselves, like being worried about going on a date with someone because you're cold calling people on a dating app, not meeting them through your community or through in-person means beforehand, which
You're
is
totally
a new
right.
phenomenon. It's like a new thing.
Yeah, we've now got an app to solve problems that another app caused. There's a lot about this situation that still does not make sense to me. And I'm not alone. It's so bad that I've legit seen people online saying, hey, I bet that this was some kind of con trying to trick women into leaking all their information on their own. And look, I don't think that's the case, but I still am wondering, how could this happen? Is this just some kind of negligence? Is there any indication that T knew that their security practices were not up to standard before this?
It's sort of like, do they know how bad of a job they were doing? I have not seen signs of that, but that is in itself an issue. If you're
Right.
building an app that has 1.6 million users who are invited to talk about like the most intimate aspects of their life, and you don't even know that you're doing a bad job, I would say that is the problem. I think the question is more like, who was in charge of making sure that people's information were private? Was that even a job at the company? Is that another hat that the CEO wore? Did they just pull some solution off the shelf? Those are the kind of questions that I'm asking.
I think those are questions everybody should be asking, because off bat, it has never occurred to me to make an app like this. But if I were to make an app where vulnerable women are coming together to try to protect each other, honestly, 4chan is going to be, my base case is going to be that somebody on 4chan is going to get mad about this. And I'm going to have that scenario in mind and say, okay, how do we protect against this? Eventually, somebody's going to want to attack this app. I'm making sure that this thing is secure.
What really I find offensive about T, and I think why it's such a big story and why it's so shocking, is this was presented to women as a solution for that, right? It's like, here's an app to do this thing that is very complicated and risky and private. We made an app for it. Boom, you don't have to worry about it. And it had the opposite effect. Yeah, I guess that's probably like a bigger lesson to take away here. It's like you need to be very suspicious of any app or technology that is suggesting it has an easy solution for a very complicated problem.
It's pretty clear that this is a conversation that needed to be had that unfortunately exploded in a way that is the result of like a huge privacy violation. I think it's a much more deeper societal problem that the fact that this exists and needs to exist. It makes a lot of sense why these exist, but I wish they didn't have to.
The real slap in the face is how, you know, this app handled your data. They just left it pretty exposed.
And this is where we come back to why I don't really think it matters whether or not you like the idea of an app where women talk about men or not. Because look, I've seen it. You probably have too. There is a subset of the male population that's saying, oh, well, it serves them right. If they're going to get in the app and they're going to be doxing men and talking about men, well, we're going to get you doxed too. Serves you right. And look, I'm going to go ahead and leave my opinion about that standpoint aside because you probably already know what that is. But let me just point out that it's not just women getting doxed here, because let's keep in mind, women were on this app to talk about men. So if there are indeed messages floating around, then there are also potentially details, potentially serious allegations about men that are also floating around out in the open. Data leaks do not discriminate. This is bad all around. But again, this also comes down, I think, to a way that as a society, we've just started to trust every app we've used with incredibly sensitive information, and then we shrug our shoulders when someone tells us to be careful. For me, this part at the very least is really cut and dry. Whatever the sassy marketing might have been, if the core premise of a company is an app that provides its users safety, and the founder's messaging is also all about safety, then I would think that the response to a data breach would be a lot more serious. Usually it would sound something more like,
hey, there's been a breach. Here are the steps that we are taking. We have hired this company. They have done an audit. They have found this information. We are contacting users and letting them know who is affected. The people who are affected are going to get this and that service in order to try and protect their privacy. These are like pretty standard things. That should be the tone. It should not be like we are trying to grow massively still girlies and get you all into this app.
The thing here that I want to get to is that this is an app, and I think maybe it's worth really making that distinction between a community of women who are working together to protect each other and an app, because we're recognizing here that there is a problem of violence against women. This is a real problem. This exists. The women experience this at an order of magnitude more than men do. Misogyny exists. These are real societal problems. And I think we've gotten so used to, we can use an app to fix that. Like an app to fix racism, an app to fix sexism. That idea is, listen, it's really seductive.
And yet we're not going to solve these issues with an app, I don't think, after a millennia of having them. And I do wish that we could solve these problems with an app, but like we've just lost a lot of the skills that would have been required to solve this in a way that would have been more private and safe and effective, probably, which would be like knowing your neighbors, knowing your community, trusting your friends, having a group of people who you trust. It would have been better as like a group chat, but you can't really monetize against that without turning into an app or a website or even like a Facebook group. Ideally, we would have done it through in-person connections, but it's become such a fragmented aspect of our society that we have to use these apps to facilitate connection at this point.
None of this had to happen. T's inability to implement just basic security methods meant that they violated the security and privacy of their users. And T is still posting on their Instagram account. If you look at the Tea Party Girls, they're talking about how great and fun their app is and how they're welcoming hundreds of thousands of new users. They're not really talking about the breach anymore. It's all about the fun that you can have if you join everyone else on their app. And I said none of this had to happen, but if you think about it, or at least if I think about it, it kind of feels like it was inevitable. Because we're starting to get frustrated with these complicated problems that exist in society. And then somebody comes along and promises that they can fix it with an app, and we sigh in relief and we tap the install button. We have appified a solution to misogyny. It was never going to work. And again, I think our individual opinion on whether or not the premise behind T was good or not doesn't really matter here, because I think two things have definitely been proven here. First, just in the way that this breach happened, I think it proves the kind of just basic anger and hatred that women continue to be up against every day just for existing. And also, I think it's proven, again, society's complete inability to take any of this stuff seriously. Thank you so much for checking out another episode of Kill Switch. Big shout out to Sam and Emanuel from 404 Media. By the way, if you're not already subscribed to 404 Media, please check them out. I really appreciate their work as always. And let us know what you think about our work. Hopefully you appreciate it too. And if there's anything you'd like us to cover or you just want to talk, you can hit us at killswitch@kaleidoscope.nyc, or you can find us on Instagram at killswitchpod. And you can hit me directly at DexDigi, that's DexDigi, on Instagram or on Blue Sky if that's your thing. And, leave us a review wherever you happen to leave your podcast reviews. It helps other people find the show, which in turn helps us keep doing our thing. And this thing is hosted by me, Dexter Thomas. It's produced by Sheena Ozaki, Dara Luke Potts, and Kate Osborne. The theme song is by me and Kyle Murdoch, and Kyle also mixes the show. From Kaleidoscope, our executive producers are Oz Walashin, Mangesh Hatikatur, and Kate Osborne. From iHeart, our executive producers are Katrina Norville and Nikki Etor. Catch y'all in the next one.